Hello students, welcome back to SuperKalam. I am your mentor Madhur, and in this journey called SuperStart with NCERT, I am back with the third class on polity. Till now we have covered three chapters in two classes. In the first we covered Constitution, why and how, along with elections. In the second class we covered rights and little bit of directive principles of state policy. Now, in that journey, today we will start with new modules, important topics from chapter 4 and 5 of NCERT of class 11th Indian Constitution at Work. What are these chapters? These chapters are executive and legislature. Now, the sole reason why I have merged these two chapters in one class is they are very integrated. In existence also, executive and legislature are very integrated. You cannot differentiate them. Their functioning is integrated, and through this class we will understand that how they are integrated in India, right? So let's start with this chapter. These are the two chapters which we are covering now. Before starting, every government has various organs typically, and also in India we have three organs of government. What are these three organs of government? First one is legislature. What does legislature do? It make laws. Next is executive, which executes or implements these laws. And the third is judiciary, which evaluates these laws, whether these laws are in accordance to the constitution or not. It do justice, it evaluates, and or you can say it interprets the laws. So these three functions are performed by three different organs. These are aligned also, like these are dependent on one another also. Sometimes legislature can do the function of executive or vice versa. They also checks each other. Therefore, these are very integrated organs of government. Now, having said that, why do we need parliament? That's the next question. Why do we need parliament? Why do we need legislature? So as I already said, first one is parliament or legislature makes laws. It makes laws. This is the primary function. But there is very hidden, very fundamental thing which we generally miss while defining the need of parliament. Now, parliament in India, especially in democratic countries like India, it is elected by people. For example, our Lok Sabha, it is elected by people. That's why parliament is the epitome of democracy. It represents the real people. It also represents the diverse sections of the country like India. How? There are women in parliament. There are individuals from scheduled caste, from scheduled tribe. There are lawyers. There are businessmen. There are full-time politicians. So that's why there are diverse representatives in parliament. So besides making laws, parliament has a very crucial function to represent people. It is basically the organ of representative democracy. Representative democracy means it is a type of democracy in which people do not directly make laws, directly participate, but they elect their representatives who go in the parliament on their behalf and they make laws. They talk about their issues, their aspirations. So that's why it is important. Parliament's need is very important. Now, having said that there is a parliament, there is a legislature. Parliament is a legislature of India. Now, parliament is not a single entity. It consists of three components. So, parliament in India consists of president of India. Why? I'll tell this. Besides this, parliament also consists of two houses. What are these two houses? Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha in India. Now, Lok Sabha is directly elected by people. Elections are held every 5 years. Even last year in 2024, we had elections. Then there is Rajya Sabha, which is not directly elected but indirectly elected. I'll talk about its composition later. But the point here I am trying to make is why we need two houses. This property of two houses is known as bicameralism. Bi means two. So two houses, why we need them? It is important for federal balance. See, Lok Sabha is elected directly by people. Rajya Sabha is elected by representatives from states. That's why Rajya Sabha ensures that its state's voice is heard in the parliament. That's why two houses ensures a federal balance. States' voice, states' aspirations, states' need, states' concerns are heard, and also avoid majoritarianism because Rajya Sabha checks Lok Sabha. Lok Sabha also checks Rajya Sabha. Therefore, it avoids any type of majoritarianism. It ensures that there is a consensus. There is a view of Rajya Sabha also taking, a view of Lok Sabha also taking. That's why bicameralism, two houses, becomes important. Now, why president is called as the part of parliament? See, president do a very essential function in lawmaking. He gives signature, he gives assent to the bill. Without his signature, without his assent, a bill cannot be made an act. So he is indirectly doing a function of parliament, of lawmaking. That's why president is a part of parliament. Parliament do lawmaking and president's signature do the work of lawmaking. That's why. Now this concept of bicameralism is even there at the state level. There are few states for which there are two houses of legislature. Now you have to tell in the comment what these states are. Now next is the two houses. We will now understand the two houses in detail. So as I told you in the last slide, there are two houses, Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. Now Lok Sabha, the current composition, the current number of members in Lok Sabha is 543, while its maximum strength as per constitution is 550. So maximum 550 members can be there. Right now there are 543 members. Now how are they elected? Every 5 years elections are held. There can be by-elections also, but normally after every 5 years elections are held for which are called Lok Sabha elections. Like in last year there were elections held. Then these 543 members are elected from 543 constituencies. So there is a concept of constituency which I told you in the chapter on elections. So India, every state and union territory is divided into these geographical entities called constituencies, and from each constituency, one Lok Sabha MP is elected. Now, these 543 seats are divided in states as well as UTs. For example, in a state Uttar Pradesh, there are 80 constituencies, 80 Lok Sabha MPs are elected, and from the union territory of Delhi, there are 7. Now let's see the function of the composition of Rajya Sabha. Now Rajya Sabha consists of right now 245 members. Its maximum strength can go up to 250 members as per constitution. Now 233 and 12. What is this? Now 233 members are elected by MLAs, states, while 12 members are nominated by President of India. So that's why it consists of elected members also and nominated members also. And elected members are not directly elected by people, but by members of state legislatures. For instance, Uttar Pradesh Uttar Pradesh MLAs elect around 31 members to Rajya Sabha. Right now, there is one more thing. Rajya Sabha is not dissolvable. It is not dissolved. Like Lok Sabha is dissolved after every 5 years, Rajya Sabha does not. For Rajya Sabha, members retire after every 2 years. One third member retires after every 2 years. So therefore, there is a continuation election of members, retiring of members, election of members, retiring of members. It is not dissolved. It remains the permanent house. That's very important point. Now, having said this, now let's discuss the functions of these two houses. Now, because these are the House of Parliament, therefore, these two are important for lawmaking. But there are some common functions and there are some different functions. There are some unique functions of these two houses. Now, I want to cover this through NCERT only. So, in NCERT, we have very clearly mentioned the powers of Lok Sabha, the powers of Rajya Sabha. Now, I want to cover this in some detail. See, Powers of Lok Sabha: makes laws on matters included in union list and concurrent list. So because India is a federal country, so there are three lists: union list, state list, concurrent list, and parliament makes laws on those matters which are there in union list and concurrent list. Lok Sabha as well as Rajya Sabha. It approves budgets, taxation. So there is a financial power also. It controls the executive. I'll cover this in detail. It amends the constitution. It approves emergency. It elects president and vice president. It basically appoints judges, removes judges, and it also establishes committees. Now, these all functions are categorized in certain categories. I'll discuss that in next a few slides. Now, Rajya Sabha approves non-money bills, ordinary bills. It approves constitutional amendment. It exercises control over executive. It participates in election and removal of president. So these are all the powers of Lok Sabha as well as Rajya Sabha. Now these are divided into few categories, which I will cover in the next few slides. Now here the important point is, what are the special powers of Rajya Sabha? Now Rajya Sabha has some special powers. Now as I already told you, Rajya Sabha is elected by the members of the state. Therefore its role is to protect federalism. So therefore, all those matters which affect federalism, Rajya Sabha plays role in that. For instance, no amendment can be made without its approval. Lok Sabha say also it has to be passed. Rajya Sabha say also it has to be passed. In the same way, all India services. So there are three all India services, and these all India services are those services whose members are spread all over the India in states also. So to ensure that state stays there, because ultimately these members are going into states. That's why all India services can only be created by Rajya Sabha, not Lok Sabha. Rajya Sabha through two-third majority can approve that this all India services should be created. Now earlier there used to be Indian Administrative Service and Indian Police Service only. Indian Foreign Service also became all India service, and this was approved by Rajya Sabha. Thereafter it was created. So this is the special power of Rajya Sabha. And also, when Lok Sabha is dissolved, Rajya Sabha functions, Rajya Sabha takes many of the functions of Lok Sabha, for example, approval of emergency, etc. So that's why Rajya Sabha's special power are linked to federal nature of Indian polity. Now, as I was telling you the functions of Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, now it's important that to categorize these functions into five important categories. First is lawmaking. Now, Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha's role are there to make laws. So there are bills presented in these houses on which discussions are held. What is the detailed process of lawmaking? I will cover in a while. Then there is annual financial statement, which we call budget. Now, budget, you must all be knowing, budget is presented in Lok Sabha. It is debated in Lok Sabha. It is basically debated in both houses, and thereafter it is passed. So therefore it becomes important from annual financial statement angle also. Next is executive check. Now what is executive check? Now parliament checks the power, the functioning of executive, which is the branch of the government which implements laws. This also I'll cover in detail in further slides. Now there is a judicial and electoral function also of legislature. What is judicial function? For instance, Parliament, Parliament's role is there in the removal of judges. Now, very recently, there has been a case wherein the Parliament will take removal of a particular judge. It has been in news. I want to know from you all which judge's removal will be taken by Parliament in the upcoming session of the Parliament. It is very much debated in news right now. So that is the judicial function of Parliament. At the same time, if there is breach of any privilege of the Parliament, then Parliament also does investigation, and Parliament also punish the person. This is the special power in breach of privileges, right? This is the fourth thing. Then there is an electoral function of Parliament also. Now you must be knowing that the election of president, which I'll again deal in the further slides, president and vice president is elected by the members of Parliament. Now there is a different composition for of electoral college for president and vice president, but in both the electoral colleges, MPs are there. So that's why there is an electoral function of the parliament in India. Now, this lawmaking function, money, this budget and executive check, this I will cover in very much detail in further slides. The first is the lawmaking process. Now, lawmaking process I have given very summarizingly in this PPT, but in our NCERT it is very nicely given. I'll cover it through NCERT. Now, this is the process which is given in NCERT. Now, what happens is, first of all, there's a bill. Bill is a proposal of legislature. This bill is introduced in either house in case of non-money bill. So there are many types of bills, which is which can be seen here. So there is this private members bill, which is introduced by a member who is not a minister. Then there is a government bill which is introduced by a member who is a minister. Then there is non-money bill and money bill. Money bill has certain financial propositions in them, and non-money bill do not have financial propositions in them. Non-money bill can be ordinary bill or constitutional amendment bill. For example, budget is a money bill. The budget proposals which are there are money bill. In the same way, a bill, for example, RTI bill before becoming an act was an ordinary bill. In the same way, the Nari Shakti Vandan bill before becoming the act was a constitutional amendment bill. That's why these are the types of the bills. Now, when there is an introduction of bill, it is introduced in either house in case of non-money bill. That is, ordinary bill and constitutional amendment bill can be introduced in any house, but money bill can only be introduced in Lok Sabha. Okay. Thereafter, bill is sent for committee to committee. There is parliamentary committee, which I'll also cover in this class. Bill is sent there. Committee gives report. Committee takes inputs from people, and those reports are then discussed in the houses, the Lok Sabha or the Rajya Sabha. Those recommendations of the committee are taken by the house. Detailed discussion is done on them. Then that bill is either accepted or rejected. Then it goes to other house. For example, this bill was introduced in Lok Sabha first. So after approval from Lok Sabha, it will go into Rajya Sabha. Then Rajya Sabha also same process will go. If there is some dispute, there is disagreement, then there will be a joint session of parliament. Joint session is when Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, they will sit together. Speaker of Lok Sabha will preside over that sitting, and then discussions will be held in order to remove all the disputes which were there in bill. Then bill goes in to the president. President signs it, and the bill becomes the act. So this is the process for ordinary bill, for non-money bill, for ordinary bill and constitution amendment bill. So just to summarize, bill, introduction of bill, discussion in legislature, both houses, one by one, vote, assent by head of the state, assent by president, and then it becomes an act. Now there is a different type of a money bill. Now overall the process remains the same, but there are a few differences. For example, money bill can be introduced only in Lok Sabha. This is first point. Speaker of the Lok Sabha, he decides if the bill will be money bill or not. It is the prerogative of speaker. And Rajya Sabha, in case of money bill, can only give recommendations, and those recommendations can either be accepted or rejected by Lok Sabha. Therefore, there can be no disagreement because Lok Sabha has an upper hand. Therefore, there is no need of joint sitting also in money bill. And because budget is also a money bill, so same happens with in case of budget, annual financial statement also. So this is the broad about money bill. Now I want you to read the money bills provision in Constitution, which is there in Article 110, and budget's provision is there in Article 112. So just read them from Lakshmikant. It's not giving very much detailed in NCERT, but it becomes important. Now I told you about speaker. Now who is a speaker? Now currently, tell me in the comment who is the current speaker of Lok Sabha. Now speaker plays an important role. He basically regulates the proceedings of the Lok Sabha. He ensures that there is a coordination, there is a proper discussion. He allocates time of discussion to different members. He basically have a casting vote. What is casting vote? So suppose on a particular bill, the voting happens, and 50% of the people are in favor of the bill, and 50% are against the bill. In that case, the speaker can vote, give us the casting vote, the ultimate vote. But he do not vote in the first instance. Only when there is a 50-50 tie, then he votes. The speaker also does a disciplinary role. For example, in anti-defection cases, when the party changes is done by any member, or member is voting against the party protocols, then it's the speaker who decides whether that person can be disqualified or not from the house. Right. So therefore, speaker is like a head of Lok Sabha. He does all the control work. He basically allocates all time, do the disciplinary action. Basically, he leads the business of the house. Right. Speakers also manages various committees of the house. Now there are various small committees which work under the speaker. Now Lok Sabha has 543 members. Now it becomes very much difficult to have discussion, deliberation in a very broad manner. Therefore, there are small committees which are made, committees of 10, 15, 20, 21, 30 members. These committees, they work throughout the year. Now parliament sessions are held 3 times a year, but these committees continue meeting throughout the year, work under the direction of a speaker, and they ensure that parliamentary work is being done. For instance, there are two types of committees: standing committee, which are permanent; ad hoc committee, which are temporary. Now, standing committee, for example, there's a standing committee on home affairs. Now, what this committee do? This committee analyzes all reports of home ministry, all bills related to home ministry, all it also analyzes the budget allocation to the this ministry. Therefore, the work of parliament is done in detailed fashion by the committee. So that's what the speaker's role and committee's role are there. Now, this was all about legislature. Now, just to summarize, legislature in India, there are three components of legislature: the President of India, Rajya Sabha, Lok Sabha. The functions of legislature include lawmaking, that's a legislative function; control on executive; judiciary removal; electoral functioning; emergency functions. These are the functions. And speaker is there. Then there are various parliamentary committees are there who function, who help in proper functioning of legislature. I hope it is clear up till now, because now we will transition into executive, which is also very much related. So executive and legislature in India work in sync. Therefore, it is important to understand executive's function in alignment with legislature. So first of all, there are two types of executives in the world, in basically in general, which is there given in NCERT. Now, one type of executive is presidential executive. Now you can just keep your mind towards US in case of presidential form of executive. Then there is parliamentary executive, like in India, in Britain. Then there is semi-presidential. It is there in France. Now, in case of presidential, president is the sole authority. So there is individual leadership. Now there is president who is head of state also and head of government also. State also and government also. But in parliamentary form, president is the head of state, but prime minister is the head of government. So there is no single leadership. There is a collective leadership. That's the difference. There are ministers, there are prime minister who advises president, and president works on their advice. But in presidential, head of the state, head of the government, both is president. That's the first difference. So it's given in detail here. You can read in detail. I'll just uh, tell you that the major difference is with respect to president, what type of role president plays in these two components. Now in India, The executive structure follows a parliamentary executive. Now, this is important point. Parliamentary executive means there is a president who is the nominal head, or you can say president is a head of state, head of country. He's the first citizen. Currently, Draupadi Murmu ji, she is the first citizen of India. But the real power is with prime minister, or you can say the real executive is prime minister, nominal executive is president. Now, under Article 74, it's given that there shall be a prime minister on whose advice the president shall act. That's why in our constitution it is given that president should act on the advice of prime minister. That's why the real power comes with prime minister. There is one more very important concept which is given in Article 75 is collective responsibility. The Council of Minister headed by Prime Minister is collectively responsible to Lok Sabha. Now, what does this mean? This means that the Council of Minister they sell and sink together. That means if there is a non-confidence motion, there is a lack of trust, there is an issue with respect to certain minister, then whole Council of Minister has to resign in case of lack of trust, no confidence motion. Also, every minister has to defend whole Council of Minister. Now, for example, one minister cannot say anything against the policy of government overall. Before that, he has to resign from that ministership. That's why they are collectively responsible. So, collective responsibility means that Council of Ministers is also individually responsible to Lok Sabha. Individually responsible means the ministry for whom they are functioning, they have to be reporting the functioning of that ministry to Lok Sabha. For instance, Home Ministry is there. Now, Amit Shah ji is the Home Minister. Now, he will be responsible to Lok Sabha for the functioning of his own ministry, for Home Ministry. So he will answer all the questions which are asked in Lok Sabha about Home Ministry. That's individual responsibility. Now, when there is a wider policy discussion, then all ministers will defend government collectively. That's collective responsibility, right? Now, now president, as I told you, president is a part of both legislature and executive. That's what is. That's why I have taken these two chapters together in one class. Now, president's role is there in lawmaking also. That's why he's a part of legislature. The president is also the head of executive. All executive actions have to be taken in the name of president. That's why president is basically part of executive. It's given in Article 52 that all executive action should be taken in name of president. The president's election is done indirectly. Common men like me and you do not vote in this election of president, but it is elected by an electoral college. Now, electoral college consists of all elected MPs, all elected MLAs from state, and there is no one vote of these MPs and MLAs. The weightage of vote of these MPs and MLAs is proportional to the population of that state. For example, the vote of one MLA from Uttar Pradesh is more than vote of one MLA, say for example from Mizoram. And MPs are also MPs also take part in this electoral college, and thereafter they elect president. The president's election is also held after every 5 years. Now, what are the qualification? Now, a person who is standing for the post of president should be citizen of India, should be 35 years of age at least, and also should be qualified to become the member of Lok Sabha. Now, parallelly, I want to tell about vice president also, not very detailed, not given in very detail in NCERT, but vice president is also elected by electoral college. The difference here is that MLAs or state do not participate in election of MLAs, but nominated members of parliament participate. In here, MLAs also participate, but nominated members do not participate. Here also the qualification is same, citizen of India, 35 years of age, but qualified to become the member of Rajya Sabha. Right? Now, what are the powers of president? Now, president's power one is legislative power. I told you he basically gives assent to the bill according to Article 111. No bill can become an act unless president signs it. Then president can also issue ordinance. Now, ordinance are basically temporary laws. So when parliament is not in session, president can proclaim an ordinance on advice of prime minister and council of ministers. These ordinance have a are like laws only, which are made by parliament. So that is the second thing. Then there is the executive power of president. What is the executive power? All actions are taken in the name of executive. The president basically heads the executive in a way because prime minister advises the president. Then president directly administers union territories. That is also the administrative function of president. Then there is other functions, for example, judicial functions. Under Article 124, President appoints judges of Supreme Court. In the same way, President also appoints the judges of High Court. That's the judicial power. Then there is emergency powers. There are three types of emergency which are proclaimed by President. I'll cover in the next slide. Then there's a discretionary power. For instance, when no party gets majority in the parliament, then it's the discretionary power of president. He will himself decide whom he will invite for taking oath of prime minister. Now he generally basically invites the leader of largest political party. So this is a discretionary power. And I already told you, as per Article 74, the president has to act on the advice of prime minister and council of ministers. So this is the last point. Now then there is the prime minister and council of minister who is the real head of government, or real power is with him. Prime Minister appoint ministers. He allocates portfolios to minister. That means, see, oath to ministers is given by president, but Prime Minister allocates portfolios to these ministers. To whom to allocate finance ministry, to whom to allocate information and broadcasting ministry. It is decided by Prime Minister. And also, I already told you, according to Article 75, this Council of Ministers is collectively responsible to Lok Sabha. That means they sell and sync together. There is a no confidence motion against the collective government. Everyone has to resign. Whole executive should resign. It's a collective entity. And it's a Council of Minister or Cabinet. Cabinet is a smaller part of Council of Ministers. Is the real decision making body in India. Right. Now, I just now told about emergency. So there are three types of emergency. Emergency basically are situations where normal functioning of the state cannot occur. In that context, president has been given some emergency powers. For example, under Article 352, there can be a national emergency. For example, in case of war, in case of any kind of armed rebellion in the country, this national emergency can be enforced. Now, it was enforced in the war of 1971 because there was war. It was also enforced by Indira Gandhi ji in 1975 on the pretext of internal disturbances. So this is national emergency. Under this, state governments take direction from the center. Our federal polity becomes unitary. The duration of Lok Sabha can be strengthened. Elections can be avoided because it's an emergency situation. Then the second emergency situation is president's rule. So if in any state there is unconstitutional government or the government is not functioning properly, then the president can proclaim it's the rule of the center in that particular state. Rule of the center means prime minister and council of ministers will take over as a take over CM and council of ministers of the state. So basically, this is the president rules. Now, recently it has been enforced in Manipur. Manipur is under president's rule, and therefore the governor of Manipur is working on the direction of president and not on the direction of chief minister right now. It has been president rule has been enforced in India in multiple times in multiple states. Now, financial emergency is where the finances of a country are not good. They are not healthy. For example, it was talked about during COVID-19. COVID-19 it was talked that there can be a financial emergency imposed, although the government did not impose it, but it is imposed when there is a issue with respect to credit of the country. It has never been imposed in India as of now. Now, Prime Minister and Council of Minister are political executive. They are elected for 5 years. They come and keep on going. But there is one permanent executive, which is bureaucracy. It remains there. Now, bureaucracy. Now there are three services, three parts from which bureaucrats can belong. All India services. I told you there are three All India services: IAS, IPS, and Forest Service. Forest Service was created when Parliament, when Rajya Sabha approved it in Article as per Article 312. I told you on the previous slide. This is the special power of Rajya Sabha. Then there are central services. There are state services. Central services, for example, Indian Foreign Service is a central service. The Indian Audits and Account Service is a central service. In the same way, there are state services also. For example, services with respect to land services. All these employees who basically registrars and all, they are elected through state services. So this is the permanent executive who remains, who who unlike uh, prime minister and council of minister uh, are not elected. They are permanent. Now the last thing which I want to tell here is, you must remember that I talked about executive role of parliament. Now, it was pertinent that after covering executive, I tell you about the executive role of the parliament. Now, parliament controls the executive. It keeps a check on the executive. Why? Because Council of Minister under Article 75, I told you already, is collectively responsible to the Lok Sabha. Therefore, Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, or in general the parliament, it exercises some control over executive. It questions executive. It criticizes executives. There are question hours. So in every session, the initial first hour is basically question hours, where members of parliament, they ask questions from the ministers. For example, uh, uh, why there is a delay in a particular road project, why there is maybe a delay in procurement of defense equipment. So these questions will be asked with the government, and the government or relevant minister will answer it. There can be a no confidence motion. For example, the Lok Sabha, this can be originated only in Lok Sabha. Lok Sabha says that we are not confident in Council of Ministers. If this no confidence motion is approved, the ministers, the whole Council of Ministers has to resign, because the Parliament do not have confidence in them. Then there is adjournment motion. During adjournment motion, the normal functioning of the House is stopped, and uh, immediate burning issues are discussed. It is also a type of no. Basically, it also, if a no adjournment motion passes, it shows that the trust of Parliament is not there in executive. There are others also. For example, 0 hours. During 0 hours, matters of public urgent importance are discussed. For example, there is a yesterday there has been some big crime, something. So the parliament can immediately at short notice take that discussion during 0 hours, right? So this is how parliament control executive. Then I also talked about committees of parliament. Now there are parliamentary committees, there are departmental related standing committees. Now parliament through these committees also control executive. Through these committees, ask questions from the executive, analyzes the report of the executive. There is a very prominent committee, Public Accounts Committee, which checks the report of CAG. So CAG basically checks the expenditure of government ministries, and this report is analyzed by Public Accounts Committee. So in a way, Parliament is also checking that is executive doing all the expenditure properly or not, whether there is corruption or not, whether there is efficient expenditure or not. So that also Parliament checks. So this is the broad idea. Now in executive, I covered about there is a president. All executive decisions are taken in the name of president. The first important thing, president, the prime minister and council of ministers advise the president. All decisions by president are taken on his advice. Then I talked about various functions of the president: legislative function, executive function, emergency function, judiciary functions. Basically, all these functions of president are exercised on the advice of prime minister only, right? Then there is a bureaucracy, the permanent executive under them, which I told you about. There are all India services, state services, central services. Now, this whole executive is basically responsible to Parliament, collective responsibility, Article 75. So these are the key things, and this is how you connect all these things. Then separately about legislature, I already told you. Okay, now we will do some questions, some previous year questions. Now already on the portal, uh, you must be seeing that you can practice any type of PYQ. So I'll select Indian polity and I'll select maybe central government or maybe uh, parliament. Let me select parliament. Now, yes, it is a conceptual question on parliamentary government. So it says a parliamentary system of government is one in which I told you about parliamentary government already. Parliamentary system of government is where president is the head of the state, but prime minister has the real power, and the council of minister is accountable to house. So let us see. A is all political parties in the parliament are represented in the government. No, it's a very clear no. A government is responsible to parliament and can be removed by it. Okay, this seems like proper answer, but let's see all other options. Government is elected by the people and can be removed by it. No, in parliamentary form, people elect MPs, not the government. Or you can say people elect legislature, not the government, not the executive. D is the government is chosen by the parliament. Yes, okay. Not chosen, but cannot be removed by it. It is not correct. So therefore, most appropriate answer here appears to be B. And yes, this is the answer because the government is responsible to parliament, Article 75, and no confidence motion. Now, next question is the main advantage of parliamentary reform. See, the similar question are coming. The main advantage of parliamentary form of government are executive and legislature work independently. No, they are intertwined. That's the basic reason why I covered these two chapters together. It provides continuity to policy and is more efficient. No, when the government changes, there can be discontinuity. It happens in presidential form, not in the parliamentary form. Executive remains responsible to legislature. Yes. The head of the government cannot be changed without election. Uh, it is not true. Head of the government means prime ministers can change without election. For example, in 1996, for Atal Bihari Vajpayee ji was president, then later HD Devagowda and then IK Gujral became the prime minister. Sorry, without election. So that head of government can change. So the correct answer is C. Right. In the same way, there are more questions which you can do, and you can just practice your understanding from this particular class. I'll also share a lot of MCQs with you. You just come in SuperStart section and do MCQs. You can also attend previous classes, my classes, and classes of other teachers, and that will be the way in which you will be able to apply your knowledge and understanding. Okay, so that's it from my end. In case of any doubts, you can comment, you can write to us, and thank you, everyone.